Hello everyone, my name is Nakara Ruth. Today we are going to look at yet another topic called identifying strategy alternatives. Well, I want us to reflect a little bit back on where we started from. We agree that strategic management happens in 3 levels. At the beginning of it all, we said that we formulate the strategy. That is level number 1. Level number 2, we implement the strategy. And level number 3, we evaluate the strategy. Remember that. Now, when we are formulating, that is where the gist is, or that is where the biggest job is, because it is quite lengthy. Remember, if you formulate a strategy and it is not well scrutinized, then it is likely not to be well implemented and the entire process will be compromised. What happens during the formulation stage? Remember, we're looking at strategic planning process in the formulation stage. Then this is where we introduce in the bigger picture of the vision, mission, and goals of an organization. Remember I told you that, for example, at Uganda Christian University, it is top management in charge of coming up with the bigger picture, the bigger dream, where we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. That is the vision. And then the mission is the reason as to why we are in existence. And we have everything in that line. Then we have levels of strategy still in the formulation stage. And then we have the pestle, that is the external environment. The things that are likely to affect an organization which we do not have control over. Look at the pandemic, COVID-19. It is an external factor, but it is affecting every organization for as long as it is existing. And when we come to the external environment, we agree we have the political factors, the economic factors, the social factors, and technology. Right now, political factors stroke legal elements enforce the SOPs, and there is no way you can operate an organization without adhering to them, or else you'll be dragged to courts of law. When it comes to the economy, it is also having its issues, the taxes, the pandemic, among others. Societies are also refraining from some of the things because of what is happening. So is technology. Remember, in the years, we used not to, use online teaching. But because of the pandemic, there is no way you can avoid technology. We have to embrace it. So you realize that we have to, adhere to the external environment. In as much as it is not affecting us directly, but indirectly it is affecting us as an institution. Then we have an industry where we belong as an institution. For example, there are quite a number of things that are happening in industries, and as institutions we have to look at them. There are quite a number of things as that emerge in industries. We have to look at the various factors or players in the industry. This is where you're going to look at the industry's life cycle. This is where you're going to look at the industry's profile, among others. And then you will look at the internal environment, where we're going to look at the SWOT analysis. We're going to look at our strength and our weaknesses. We're also going to look at the opportunities emerging and the threats. Now, when we come to look at the internal environment, the essence actually is to see what opportunities are emerging versus our strength or internal capabilities that we can sage on, that we can exploit. There are quite a number of opportunities that are going to emerge, but not every opportunity is worth exploiting given your internal capacity, given your internal strength as an organization. So that is also quite something important that we're going to look at. But as of today, those are areas that are likely to be handled by Mr. Ashton, and we might come back through so that we concretize them. But as of now, I want us to look at the strategic alternatives what are the alternatives? What are some of those choices that are likely to be chosen by organizations? Strategic choices stroke alternatives are developed to set direction in which the available resources of a firm or an organization will be applied for greater chances of achieving selected goals. Remember, in the beginning, we talked about goals. If we do not have goals, then we don't have direction. And once the goals are set, they have to be achieved. How do we achieve them? That is why we set up those strategic choices or alternatives. These strategic choices flow in different layers. Remember, an organization has top management, which is the corporate level. It has the middle managers, which are at the business unit level, and then we also have functional or first line managers, which are at the front line or the functional level. I want us to look at the corporate level as I will move on later. Corporate strategies here at the corporate level, at the top management, if it were UCU at the apex, we're looking at the VC, we're looking at the board of governors, we're looking at the university council, name it. That is the corporate level. Why? Because they dream for the organization, they dream for the institution. And here, the corporate level strategy is the set of strategic alternatives, call them choices, from which an organization or institution chooses as it manages its operations simultaneously across several industries and several markets. Let's take note of that. You do not choose from everything that is available, but remember, the top management has to fit the organization within the country to compete as favorably. And if it also has branches outside the country, those are the markets that we're talking about, you also have to fit in there. Companies today compete in a variety of industries and markets. I'll give you an example. I'll walk out of UCU for this time and look at companies like Mukwano Group of Companies. When you look at Mukwano, it has quite a number of products, household products, and these products cannot compete in the same way. It has tea leaves, it has plastic, it has cooking oil, name it. And all of these products have different positions where they're competing. Two, because they're looking at becoming the leading producer of household items in the Great Lakes region, that means their position in Uganda is not the same as their position in Rwanda, so is Southern Sudan. And that is why they have to be management, that is, they have to be very candid on how they position themselves. And that is where the corporate level strategies come in all companies. So, as they develop business level strategies for each industry or market, they also have to develop an overall strategy that helps define the mix of industries and markets that are of interest to the firm. What happens at the corporate level? The corporate level strategies fall into 5 categories. One, there is what we call the stable growth strategy. There is a growth strategy, harvesting, defensive, and combination. Today, in our global economy, the ones which are very much focused on are 2. That is the growth strategy and defensive. It doesn't mean that we are going to skip the other ones, but let us look at what happens in all of them. At the stable growth strategy, if a company chooses to pursue this, that means that the company is not shaken. For example, a stable growth strategy is adopted when the firm's management may not necessarily wish to significantly modify their present strategy. Why do you think a company might choose not to wish to make any modifications? For example, if a company is making profits, if a company is not having or subject to lots of competition, if a company is making abnormal profits among others, they might not wish to make any changes in the current strategy. However, if the company is having any troubles in survival, then that might not be ideal, and they might have to move into other types of strategies. Number 2, we have what we call the growth strategy. What happens here? These are generally associated with growing industries. If an industry is growing, there is a likelihood that they need to, the different players in the industry are likely to pursue growth strategies. And these are characterized, if an industry is under growth, you realize that the players, the firms in there, are striving to grow faster than the markets in which their products are sold. Two, they tend to be making profits that are higher than the industry's average. That is, the companies which are likely to be under a growing industry. Three, companies in such growing industries are associated with a lot of innovative ideas. They regularly come up with new products. They normally come up with new users for the old products. They come up with new processes, and they always have new markets. This is very common with companies in the banking sector, though it is very enormous with the telecom industry in Uganda because it is quite growing. And every now and then, they have new products, they have new processes, they have new markets, they have new users for the old products, name it. I think that is very, common knowledge. And they normally strive to see that they are at the top of the game. Every player there is really fighting hard. What happens is, if you're going to pursue growth, there are what we call generics for growth. Or generic strategies for growth. You either choose to concentrate, you either choose to vertically integrate, or as a company, you might choose to do what we call diversification. However, let us examine one by one. What happens if a company is pursuing our growth strategy and they focus on concentration? Concentration growth strategy, management of a firm can concentrate on its efforts to rapidly increase either their sales. They can choose to concentrate on increasing the market share, or they can choose to concentrate on increasing profits, or among others. Concentration strategy largely focuses on a single product or service, or on a small number of related products. Firms are enabled to, by certain gaps, to adopt concentration. If you find that there is a product line gap, then you can choose to fulfill the gap by coming up with relevant to the coming up with products which are relevant to the market. Or you might be enabled by distribution gap, absence or inadequate distribution systems within the relevant market, or usage gap, competitive gap, name it, among others. And as you move on, you realize how these gaps can be filled up as we move on. However, what are some of the approaches that can be used in pursuing the concentration strategy? Here, management can use what we call the market development. To achieve market development, there must be considerable effort directed towards expanding the markets of the current business or products, either by gaining a larger market share, expanding into new geographical areas, or attracting new market segments, among others. That is one approach that management can use. When you choose to do what we call market development, you are likely to either increase your sales market share, or you're likely to increase your profitability as a company. What happens with the other concentration approaches? We also have the second one called the product development. What happens? The main thrust of effort is directed towards modification or modifying the product or service, at times developing new products that are closely related to the current product. Product development strategy is more successful if both the company and its product or service enjoyed a favorable reputation in the market. And all of these ones, they can increase market share, market sales, or they can lead to increment in the profitability. Three, the other thing that might be concentrated on by a company. Remember, we are still on the growth strategy and we are pursuing concentration. We haven't touched the other generics of growth. We are still concentrating. The first one, we said we can go ahead and choose to do market development, we can do what we call product development, and the third one, as we choose to concentrate, we can do what we call horizontal integration. What is horizontal integration? This occurs when an entrepreneur or a company acquires one or more businesses that produce similar products or typical services as the firm itself. Typically, it is achieved by buying another firm in the same business. And this has been done by telecom players and the bankers so as to cement their positions where they are. Horizontal growth can be achieved by internal expansion or by external expansion through mergers and acquisitions or firms offering similar products and services. A firm may diversify by growing horizontally into unrelated businesses as well. And some examples of horizontal integration might be consumed there, as you might see. Why would companies choose to horizontally integrate? There are quite a number of advantages and reasons as to why companies might choose to do that, as you will look at them. But as of now, I think let us try to cement or concretize the content of concentration as a strategy, so that when we meet again in our second meeting or in our second discussion, we can look at other strategies as we move on in as far as the strategic choices are concerned, so that we understand them fully.